Sex. In the late 1970s, a man by the name of Karol Wojtyła was elected as Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, some of you watching may know him by his papal name, Pope John Paul II, except now he's actually known as Pope Saint John Paul II. So if I forget to add that, I'm sorry. During the early part of his papacy, Saint John Paul II devoted a significant amount of his time to preaching about the human body and how we are called to glorify God through our bodies. Now, these talks, given between 1979 and 1984, have been organized, studied, and arranged into something known as Theology of the Body. Now, let me make one thing very clear. Theology of the Body is not sex education for Catholics. What it really is a tool to aid in the understanding of what we, as men and women, are called to be for each other in this world. It helps us to understand how our bodies are created as good and holy and should be treated as such. It also teaches us that men and women need each other, not just for the procreative aspects, but also because we bring out the best in each other. Now, I heard very little about Theology of the Body before I moved to Toledo. In fact, I didn't even really know what it was about until I moved here. Since then, I've come to understand a little more clearly about what it actually is. And surprisingly, well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, because it has taught me so much over the last few years. Theology of the Body taught me that relationships, whether romantic or just straightforward friendships, are successful and really only succeed when there's one common goal. And that common goal is to get the other person to heaven. Before I knew that, I was always solely focused on what I could get out of any relationship. You know, how is it going to benefit me? What could I gain from this? And that was a very self-centered mentality to have. An example that comes to mind for me goes back to when I was in high school. I was friends with this guy who was significantly older than me, who was also into trains. And we do stuff together on the weekends, train-related obviously. But there were things that he would say and do that were either really nasty or racist or just overall mean. He would also make fun of so many people, some people who I knew, some people who I didn't know, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So as time went on, the only reason that I really stayed friends with him was because he would share information, train-related information, with me about, like, say something special was going to be happening train-related. He would share that information with me and would keep it from other people. And I justified myself by staying friends with him because I would tell those people that he wouldn't tell. But now here we are years later and I haven't spoken to him in I don't know how long. I don't even know if he's still doing train-related things. But looking back on that relationship, I certainly wasn't in it for the right reasons, even if I validated it in the way I did. But this also kind of brings me to my second point. We need to surround ourselves with people who are going to bring out the best in us. I touched on this a little bit in last week's video. Don't waste your time with people who are not helping you become the best version of yourself. Theology of the Body taught me that in order for me to be the best version of myself, I need to surround myself with people who also want that for me. The last point I'll mention on this topic is probably the most difficult one to mention. Theology of the Body taught me how to love. Love means saying no to your boyfriend or girlfriend when they ask you to engage in intimate acts that should be reserved for marriage. Love means being intentional with every friendship that you have and taking the time to tell your friends how much they matter to you. Love means being the person that God wants you to be. You don't have to be Catholic or Christian or even believe in God to want the best for yourself or your friends. Thank you, St. John Paul II, for giving us this wonderful gift of Theology of the Body. It's done wonders for me. It continues to do great things in the church, and I'm sure that it will continue to do wonderful things far into the future. I'll try to put some links in the description about Theology of the Body. One of the really go-to guys for this topic is a guy named Christopher West. Devoted much of his life to the study and application of this, so if I can find anything from him, it'll be down there in the description. May God bless all of you, and I'll see you next week with a really interesting video. That's all I'll say. Take care. God bless.